I don't mean to say that policy won't be important in this business. It will be important in this business. It always will be important in this business because energy generation is always in a national interest or a regional interest. Now, this kind of scale up is something that both myself and our company has seen before. We participated in the ramp up of semiconductors. Winfred showed a chart of a 40% learning curve. That's just an astonishing learning curve to stay on over a 40-year period. Over the last 30 or so years, there's been more than 6 decades of improvement, if you stared at this chart a little bit. About 20 million times improvement in the cost per transistor or cost per function. We have a little analogy about an iPod. If you tried to build an iPod in 1970, it would have cost you $3 billion to build. Of course, you couldn't quite have fit it in your pocket either. But today you can, and the changes that have been made in the technology, mostly evolutionary, but certainly very significant over this period of time. Displays, which today are growing very fast still, have improved more than 20 times in cost over the last 20 years, allowing them to become ubiquitous every place on the planet. And now we're putting our attention, and our industry and everyone in this room is putting their attention to driving down the cost of solar energy. This is now the new challenge. Unlike these other areas, producing electricity from solar won't change the way you live your life necessarily. It will change the economic development in the country. All of our countries certainly need to create more jobs. Driving down the cost in solar energy will allow major deployments to be made. Driving down the cost of installation and transmission of this energy is also critically important. So when I think about the scale up of solar energy, I kind of think about it from 3 interconnected aspects. One is the supply. Are we going to be able to put in the manufacturing capability? Do we have the raw materials to be able to accomplish that? Certainly we saw earlier that that's true. Do we have to hone down our experience, really drive the industrialization of solar energy? We do. We have a long way to go to make the scale up, drive costs down factor really work in this industry. At the same time, we need dramatically better infrastructure around the world. Today, solar energy is deployed in a haphazard manner. I think we know that anybody who wants to own a generating plant can own one. But I would put to all of us that if we planned a generation system, we probably wouldn't plan it that way. It doesn't mean that the grid doesn't have to be flexible to accept these distributed sources. It does, because that's the way a lot of policy is going to be created. But we have to get utilities into the game. And that is one of the policies that has to happen, not only here in the United States and in China. Utilities have to get involved in the design of these electrical systems, of the generating and delivery systems. This is one of the things I think that is fundamentally missing today in all the regions of the world. And policy has to help make that happen. And finally, policy does create demand today. We can't kid ourselves that today, everywhere in the world, it's governments and policy that are creating the demand. That demand is largest here because the policy is best here. Europe, and in particular Germany, has thought through this so that they get economic benefit from the production and deployment of solar energy and the creation of jobs around that industry. So these things have to be working together in concert. A supply chain that's honed and experienced, that's grown large, that's delivered on standards, an infrastructure to deliver the electricity deliver it in an efficient manner, and then excellent policy that not only considers the cost of electricity and jobs, but also creates the need for utilities to get involved in this industry. I just give you a note of, if you look upstream and what our company and companies like ours are trying to do, we're trying to create that industrialization. We're working on technologies for crystalline silicon, for thin film silicon, looking at other technologies. But most of all, we're looking at machines that can run in a production environment 7 by 24, 365 days a year, full utilization, and keep trying to drive that scale of the technology up so that the cost really can come down, and come down very, very quickly. We've had expertise in making these tools over many years, and we've built off our semiconductor knowledge and our flat panel knowledge to bring that expertise to the solar industry. We're of course not the only one in this space, but we are trying to bring all of our experience to every place in the world so that we can scale up to help drive our costs down and be able to pass those on to the industry to allow it to grow and scale. So finally, the industry does need to scale, and the way it's going to scale is by producing reliable products, products at scale, drive down the cost not just to retail cost rates, but to the actual cost of electricity production. Our job is far from done. Will it be done in 10 years? It's hard to say, but we should all take the challenge and the goal to get off incentives as we know them today over the next 10 years, to get the cost down so that free market forces can operate on our industry. Because the free market forces are much more powerful than government forces, and also much more stable, as we certainly have seen. But I believe demand will come, and it'll become because there is certainly a movement of environment and environmental consciousness around the world, and I think a fundamental recognition that fossil fuels are limited and fossil fuels are destroying our environment. So demand will come. Will we be ready for it? I believe we will. Certainly Applied Materials is here to help. Thank you very much.